We're learning a bit more now about those talks that just ended between Ukraine and Russia. The discussions lasted over 5 hours, that according to Russian state media, and both sides have agreed to meet again for another round of talks in the coming days. We will wait to see how that plays out. Right now, President Biden is leading a call with U.S. allies to discuss next steps in this showdown with Russia over the invasion of Ukraine. Earlier, the Biden administration adding another wave to economic sanctions against Moscow, cutting Russia's central bank off from U.S. dollar transactions. Russia's Putin lashed out at the West today, calling it an empire of lies. The chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee suggests Putin is angry because his invasion not going according to plan.
I think we all have been amazed, but also stand firmly with the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian military. I mean, President Zelensky has been a profile in courage, reporting from Kyiv. And I think if we look at virtually every component, things have played out better than we hoped.
With us to share their reporting and their insights, CNN's Dana Bash, Margaret Taleb from Axios, and McClatchy's Francesca Chambers. The question is, what next? The president on this call with European allies, I think from around the world, you hear people impressed with the coalition and sort of the global repudiation of Putin right now. You have some new reporting that the Ukrainians are happy, but they want more. What do they want?
They do. And John, we're reporting now Zelensky not only wants a no-fly zone, but is asking Biden, the White House, America for a no-fly zone, gave a statement to Axios through a spokesperson saying, he says, Ukraine can beat the aggressor if the Western allies do their part. He says the sanctions are helping. They're heading in the right direction. But that if the West does this, meaning the no-fly zone, the Ukraine will defeat the aggressor with much less blood. We know that the White House is not ready to take the step, that most of Congress is not ready to take the step, that it would be an aggressive move that could potentially engage the U.S. military. Why is Zelensky talking about it anyway? Because he has seen, number one, what the Russian assault could look like and how much worse it could get. And number two, he has seen what precise messaging in the moment has done to shift public opinion. And he is not giving up on the state of play. He is not saying, okay, well, there are things the West won't do. He understands that the West may do more than they thought they would.
He is central at the moment to rallying global opinion, without a doubt, and the President of the United States has a big part in that. But you had a conversation yesterday with the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, who was very woe on that idea of a no-fly zone or the boots on the ground. Let's just listen to a bit of that conversation.
The president has made clear that we're not going to put boots on the ground. We're not going to put American troops in danger. So that means we're not going to put American troops in the air as well. But we will work with the Ukrainians to give them the ability to defend themselves.
The question is, we're on day 5 now. The situation has evolved dramatically. Will it evolve more?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time not that long ago, like 5 days ago, 6 days ago, where nobody thought that Germany would take steps to say, we're going to put a hold on Nord Stream 2, the pipeline. Never mind what the allies have done collectively with the SWIFT banking system, but much more importantly, with the sanctions in place, or at least going to be in place, on the Russian central bank. I mean, there's so many things that nobody expected to happen because President Zelensky has been so upfront, and because of what is happening on the ground and the resolve of the Ukrainian people. Having said that, you know, when you interview somebody who is sort of at the top of the news, you don't necessarily know if they're going to answer the question. I was kind of shocked that the U.S. ambassador to the UN was so clear in her answer and saying that there will not be a no-fly zone because America does not want to have U.S. troops in harm's way. There was no ambiguity. Right. The point is that a lot of times when you talk to diplomats, they do intentional, or they call it strategic ambiguity. There was none there.
There was none there because that is the adamant position of the United States right now and the NATO allies, that there's a line, they want to help, but there's lines they can't cross. What is striking right now, we just put this up on the screen, you mentioned President Zelensky's roles in this, and you also have to give some credit. I know there are people who wanted Biden to be more aggressive with sanctions, but they have seen this coming for months, and they have worked behind the scenes on this diplomacy that gets you this. The Swiss today, for years, neutral in world affairs, studiously neutral on purpose in world affairs, saying we are freezing Russian assets. The United States taking new steps today. Germany sending Ukraine weapons, not just canceling the pipeline, but Germany sending weapons to assist Ukraine. That is a giant step. The European Union now waiting to see if it can admit Ukraine, maybe on a faster path there. Hungary as well. The global coalition here, again, we have long to wait to see what happens to Putin. But Putin has to be surprised by the idea that the rebuke and the economic sanctions are from just about every corner of the earth.
And what struck me, John, is how many Republicans and Democrats said exactly that yesterday, that Putin may have underestimated both the response within Ukraine, but also from the West and the Biden administration in Germany and other countries, John. And the U.S. says they will escalate as Putin escalates, as you were talking about, launching those new sanctions, targeting Vladimir Putin himself, but also the oligarchs in Russia saying, look, we're going to target your yachts, we're going to target your children and your families, your kids aren't going to be able to go to college here, and making it really clear that there's more that they can and will do here.
And so the question is, it's a giant global test for the president. It's a giant global test for the world right now, this confrontation with Putin, at a time the President of the United States tomorrow night has the largest stage he will have this year. And so, a month ago, this was a very different speech. Now, Ukraine has to be front and center, and the president trying to convince a polarized nation it's time to support the flag and the commander-in-chief in a confrontation with Putin.
It's true, but again, what a difference 5-6 days makes. At the beginning of this conflict, one of the questions in terms of the politics of this was whether or not people in America would get it, especially at a time when inflation is high and gas prices are high and they can't always find
because of this.
And they might go higher because of this. And just in terms of the initial anecdotal response, I'm not looking at specific poll numbers on this, but the anecdotal response, it has been overwhelming to see how people are watching what is happening there, because it really boils down to a fundamental question. And Mitt Romney put it this way yesterday, and I think that this is what people are digesting: good and evil. It is good and evil. And it is as black and white as that, with the way people are looking at it. And also the fact that the administration is saying no U.S. boots on the ground, and that the America won't engage when it comes to the most precious resource, America's men and women, that is really making a difference.
You know, the Republican conference seemed split even a week ago about whether the U.S. is supposed to care, whether Americans should care about what's going on. I think that's mostly over. This argument, like you should care more about the border, seems to be marginalized over to the right. For Biden, though, the challenge domestically, politically, is the Republicans are unified around this argument that it was Biden's weakness rather than national weakness and national division that precipitated this. That's a political complication for the president right now. Huge stakes for tomorrow. The State of the Union address is going to be hugely important messaging to Americans and the world.
Well, we did hear that argument again from the former president, Donald Trump, at CPAC over the weekend, talking about the border. But to your point, Dana, specific polling, more than 8 in 10 Americans support sanctions on Russia at this point, although they're still against the boots on the ground in Ukraine.